Most people don't fail in life because they lack talent. They fail because they never learned how to protect their peace, guard their energy, and walk away from everything that was quietly destroying them. Read that again, not because it sounds good, but because somewhere inside you, something just flinched. That flinch, that's recognition. That's the part of you that already knows the truth, but has been too comfortable in the lie to say it out loud. Most people will walk into 2026 the same way they walked into every year before it. New hopes, same habits, zero real change. They'll write the goals, buy the journal, say this time is different. And by February, they'll be back to who they were in December, not because they're weak, but because they never dealt with the real problem. The war happening inside them that nobody talks about. The one with no blood, no bruises, and no witnesses. Just a slow, quiet drain that leaves you exhausted before the day even begins. Picture this, a person who from the outside has it together, stable job, people around them, a routine that looks like discipline, but every morning they wake up already tired, not physically but somewhere deeper, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix and weekends don't touch. They go through the motions, they show up, they smile when they're supposed to, but inside there's a noise that never fully stops. A weight they've carried so long they've stopped noticing it's even there. That person isn't a character in a story. That person is someone you know. Maybe it's someone you see every time you look in the mirror. And here's what nobody tells them, what nobody told you. The exhaustion is not coming from your workload. It's not coming from the economy, the circumstances, or the hand life dealt you. The exhaustion is coming from the war you're losing inside yourself, every single day. The Stoics understood something that the modern world has buried under noise and distraction. A man who ruled an empire while fighting wars, managing betrayal, and watching people he loved die, wrote this in his private journal, never intending for anyone else to read it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't writing a motivational quote. He was talking himself off the edge. He was reminding himself daily that the battlefield was never out there. It was always in here. And that is the first lesson 2026 demands from you. The suffering you're carrying is not being caused by the world around you. It's being caused by your response to it, by the stories you keep telling yourself, by the relationships you keep tolerating, by the opinions you've allowed to live rent-free in your mind for years, quietly reshaping how you see yourself. Let's talk about the silent drains, because this is where most people lose the war without ever knowing a battle was happening. A silent drain doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a warning label. It comes disguised as loyalty, the friend you keep showing up for who never once asks how you're doing. It comes disguised as love, the relationship that doesn't hurt enough to leave, but never heals enough to breathe in. It comes disguised as responsibility, the guilt you carry for other people's choices, other people's moods, other people's lives, as if you signed a contract somewhere that made their peace more important than yours. And then there are the mental loops, the conversations you replay at 2 a.m. that already happened 2 years ago, the version of yourself you keep apologizing for, the fear dressed up as practicality, the self-doubt dressed up as humility. These are not character traits. These are leaks. And every single day you don't address them, you are bleeding, slowly, invisibly, and completely alone. You cannot build a better life on an empty foundation. And right now, for many of you reading this, the foundation is cracked. Not because you're broken, but because you've been so busy carrying everyone else that you forgot to check if you were still standing. Here is where the turning point lies, not in a dramatic moment, not in rock bottom. The turning point lives in a quiet, devastating realization. You have been guarding everyone else's comfort while abandoning your own peace. You stayed silent to keep the room calm. You shrunk yourself to make others feel bigger. You explained yourself to people who had already decided what they thought of you. You gave your best hours to things that gave you nothing back. And you called it being a good person. You called it being strong. But strength without boundaries is not strength. It's slow self-destruction with better branding. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire, learning to want the right things, and learning to stop pouring yourself into what was never yours to fix. Epictetus, who was born a slave and died one of the most free men in history, said it plainly: make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. What is in your power? Your standards, your response, your choice of who gets access to your time, your energy, and your peace. Everything else, their opinions, their moods, their choices, is not your battlefield. Stop fighting wars on land that was never yours to defend. Guard your energy like it is the only currency that actually matters, because it is. Money can be made again. Time has limits, but energy is what determines what you do with the time you have. And right now, too much of yours is being spent on things that subtract from you quietly, consistently, and without apology. So here is what Section 1 of your 2026 looks like. Not a resolution, not a vision board, a decision, a line drawn in the ground between who you were willing to be and who you are no longer willing to become. You stop explaining yourself to people who misunderstand you on purpose. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. You stop treating your peace as something you earn after you've satisfied everyone else. The obstacle is not the enemy. Your resistance to facing what's draining you is. And the moment you stop running from that truth, the moment you stand inside it and say this ends now, is the moment the war inside you finally begins to turn. The life you're waiting for will never arrive until you stop outsourcing your peace to the world around you. Everything you've been searching for has always been inside you, and it starts with winning the war nobody else can see. Section 2, the blueprint, how to actually change, not just feel changed. Feeling inspired is easy. Transformation is something else entirely. Every year, millions of people have the most powerful moment of clarity in a YouTube video, in a late-night journal entry, in a conversation that cuts right through them. They feel it. That electric surge of this time will be different. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, they move differently. They wake up earlier. They cut off the wrong people. They start the thing they've been postponing for years. And then life shows up. Ordinary, unglamorous Tuesday morning life. And slowly, quietly, without even making a decision to stop, they drift back. Not to rock bottom, just back to average, back to comfortable, back to the version of themselves they were trying to leave behind. This is not a willpower problem. This is an architecture problem. You cannot build a new life with the same mental structure that built the old one. Feeling changed and actually changing are two completely different things, and most people spend their entire lives confusing the two. 2026 will not be your best year because you felt something reading this. It will be your best year because you decided, quietly, firmly, without needing applause, to build differently. starting now. Picture two people standing at the edge of a new year, same circumstances, same city, same bank account, same past. The first person waits. They tell themselves they'll start when the timing is right, when the relationship improves, when the job gets better, when they feel more ready. They're not lazy, they're logical, they think. They're being realistic. But what they're actually doing is outsourcing their transformation to a circumstance that will never arrive on its own. The second person makes a different choice, not a louder one, not a more dramatic one. They simply decide to shift before the world gives them permission to. They stop waiting for conditions to be and start becoming someone who creates conditions. They understand something the first person has not yet grasped. The world does not change first. You do, and then everything around you has no choice but to respond. Which person will you be? Because the answer to that question is the only thing that actually separates the life you have from the life you keep imagining. The Stoics built their philosophy not on feelings but on frameworks, not on how to feel better, but on how to think better so that your feelings stop running your life and your decisions start running it instead. And inside that philosophy live three pillars that, if you actually apply them, will restructure 2026 from the inside out. The first pillar, discipline over motivation. Motivation is a mood. It arrives uninvited, stays as long as it wants, and leaves without warning. Building your life around motivation is like building a house around the weather. Some days the sun shows up and you're unstoppable. Most days it doesn't, and you're left wondering why you can't stay consistent. Discipline is something entirely different. Discipline is not about feeling like doing the work. It is about doing the work precisely because you don't feel like it, and doing it anyway because you've decided that who you're becoming matters more than how you feel in this moment. Did not wake up every morning as emperor feeling inspired. He wrote in his journal that private, unfiltered record of a man wrestling with himself, reminders to get up, to do the duty, to stop wasting the morning. The most powerful man in the Roman world had to talk himself into showing up, and he did it, not because it felt good, because it was right. Your alarm going off tomorrow morning is not an obstacle. It is an invitation. The question is whether you'll answer it like someone who is becoming or like someone who is still waiting to become. The second pillar, detachment from outcomes. This one will challenge everything you think discipline means, because most people believe that working hard means obsessing over results, checking constantly, measuring, panicking when the progress isn't visible fast enough. But the Stoics taught something that feels until the moment it changes your life. Do the work with complete commitment and release the obsession with how and when it pays off. This is not passivity, this is precision, because when you are obsessed with the outcome, every slow day becomes a crisis. Every setback becomes evidence that you're failing. Every person moving than you becomes a reason to doubt yourself. And that anxiety, that white-knuckle grip on results, is itself the thing that slows you down, clouds and pulls you out of the present moment where all actual progress lives. Epictetus said it this way: concern yourself with what is up to you and let go of what is not. The work is up to you, the timeline is not. The effort is up to you, the applause is not. You control the input. Life controls the output. And the moment you truly internalize that, you stop suffering over the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and you start closing it. The third pillar, radical ownership. This is the hardest one, not because it requires the most effort, but because it requires the most honesty. Radical ownership means this: you stop narrating your pain and you start editing your story. You stop explaining why your life is the way it is, the family, the past, the people who wronged you, the system, the timing, and you start asking the only question that has ever produced real change. What can I do differently starting today? This does not mean your pain wasn't real. It was. It does not mean the people who hurt you were right. They weren't. It means that the story of what happened to you is not the story of who you are unless you keep writing it that way. The victim narrative feels safe because it removes responsibility. If it's their fault, you don't have to change. But it also removes power, and you cannot afford to trade your power for comfort anymore. Not in 2026. Not when the version of yourself you're capable of becoming is waiting on the other side of that decision. There is a person, no name, no headline, no viral story attached to them, who quietly applied these 3 pillars last year. They didn't announce a transformation on social media. They didn't wait for January 1st. They started on a Wednesday in March when they were tired and broke and had every reason to stay the same. They built the discipline first. Small, unsexy, consistent. They stopped waiting to feel ready and started doing the thing before they felt ready. They detached from the scoreboard and focused on the process until the process became their identity. And they took ownership, full, uncomfortable, liberating ownership of every single thing in their life that they had the power to change. Nobody celebrated them while it was happening. There was no moment where confetti fell and a crowd cheered. There was just a quiet Tuesday, unremarkable to everyone around them, where they made a different choice than they had the week before. And then another Tuesday, and another, until one day they looked up and the life around them had rearranged itself entirely, not because luck arrived, but because they had become someone luck could actually reach. That is how real change happens, not in a blaze, in a series of quiet, private, unglamorous decisions that nobody sees until suddenly everyone does. So here is what the blueprint actually looks like in practice. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a standard, a line you draw about what you will and will not accept from yourself going forward. A standard for how you spend your mornings, for who gets access to your time, for what you're willing to tolerate in your own thinking, for the excuses you will no longer accept from the person back at you in the mirror. You hold that standard not when it's easy, not when people are watching, not when you feel motivated and the music is right and everything is aligned. You hold it on the hard days, the invisible days, the days when staying the same would be so much easier and nobody would even notice. Because that is where identity is actually built, not in the moments of peak performance, but in the moments when you had every reason to quit and you didn't. You don't need 2026 to be lucky. You need to become someone who doesn't need luck, someone whose discipline, detachment, and ownership have made them so internally solid that circumstances stop being the deciding factor in their life. The year will not give you that. Only you can give you that. And it doesn't start on a perfect morning with a perfect mindset and a perfect plan. It starts now, in this moment, with the decision to stop waiting for the life you want and start becoming the person who builds it, one quiet, disciplined, unglamorous choice at a time. This isn't your year because the stars aligned. It's your year because you finally decided it would be. The life you've been waiting for was never somewhere ahead of you. It was always waiting inside you for you to stop shrinking, stop waiting, and start building. Now build.